The story opens deep in a thick jungle forest, where a large river flows through the trees. A man named Jeff is traveling down the river on a boat with his crew. Jeff and his team make their living by catching snakes and selling them in the city for money. However, today they are heading to an extremely dangerous location. The boat captain becomes worried and warns Jeff about the area ahead. He tells Jeff that local people believe the place is cursed and full of deadly, poisonous snakes. The captain has heard frightening stories about a legendary giant snake called the Crimson Anaconda that lives in this territory. According to the tales, this massive creature kills anyone who dares to enter its hunting grounds, but Jeff simply smiles at the captain's warnings. He tells the captain to take them there anyway, promising that this dangerous trip will make them all rich and that they will return home safely. Jeff is a professional snake hunter with years of experience, and he has come to this jungle for one specific reason: to capture the legendary Crimson Anaconda alive. After traveling for some time, the boat finally reaches the dangerous location. The nervous captain demands extra payment because bringing people to this cursed area is extremely risky. Jeff calmly pulls out money from his pocket and holds it out to the captain. However, when the captain reaches forward with both hands to take the money, Jeff intentionally lets the bills fall to the ground. The captain bends down happily to pick up the money from the floor. At that exact moment, Jeff suddenly pulls out a knife and stabs the captain violently in the neck. He brutally slashes the captain's throat and pushes his dead body into the river. Jeff's two companions, who are standing nearby on the riverbank, watch this horrifying murder in complete shock. They are terrified after witnessing Jeff's cruel and violent nature. Jeff calmly walks toward his frightened companions and gives them a clear warning. He tells them that anyone who tries to betray him or disobey his orders will suffer the same deadly fate as the boat captain. After this threatening warning, the three men continue moving deeper into the dangerous jungle. Soon, they arrive at a mysterious location where they discover an enormous stone statue of a snake. When Jeff sees this ancient statue, he realizes that the old stories about the Crimson Anaconda might actually be true. Meanwhile, his two companions discover a large group of regular snakes crawling nearby. Excited by this find, they quickly start catching the snakes and stuffing them into large bags. However, Jeff completely ignores these smaller snakes. He is not interested in ordinary snakes at all. Jeff's only goal is to find and capture the biggest creature in the entire jungle, the legendary Crimson Anaconda. One of Jeff's companions carries a heavy bag filled with captured snakes and walks back toward the boat by the river. As he approaches the water's edge, he notices something horrible floating in the distance. It is the headless body of the boat captain that Jeff murdered earlier. The sight freezes him with fear. Suddenly, the dead body sinks below the surface of the water. At the same exact moment, something massive begins moving rapidly through the river, creating powerful waves. The creature is swimming directly toward him at incredible speed. Terrified, the man turns around and runs into the jungle as fast as he can. But within just a few seconds, a gigantic anaconda bursts out from the trees and attacks him with terrifying speed. The enormous snake wraps its powerful body tightly around the man, crushing his bones with overwhelming force. Then it opens its huge mouth wide and begins swallowing him completely whole. Meanwhile, the other companion walks deeper into the forest, carrying his own bag filled with captured snakes. Suddenly, he stops walking when he notices something absolutely horrifying nearby. He sees the giant anaconda slowly crawling through the jungle. As the massive creature climbs up onto a tree branch, the clear outline of a human body can be seen bulging inside its swollen stomach. It becomes obvious that the monster has just swallowed someone alive. Before the man can run away to escape, the giant anaconda suddenly opens its mouth and regurgitates the body of his friend, the first companion who was killed moments earlier. The horrifying sight leaves him completely frozen in fear and unable to move. Just moments later, the hungry anaconda attacks him as well. The massive creature wraps itself tightly around his body and begins swallowing him alive, just like the first victim. Jeff has been watching everything from a hidden position at a safe distance. Shockingly, he makes no attempt to help his companion or save his life. Instead of showing fear, Jeff seems entertained and excited by watching the brutal attack. The truth is that Jeff had actually planned to use his companions as bait for the snake from the very beginning. His strategy was to wait until the anaconda became distracted while feeding on its prey, then shoot it with tranquilizer darts to stun it and capture it alive. Jeff pulls out his shotgun and gets ready to attack the giant snake. But suddenly, all the animals and birds throughout the jungle begin making extremely loud noises. The entire forest becomes chaotic and restless. When the anaconda hears these warning sounds, it immediately abandons its meal and quickly disappears deep into the jungle. Something even more terrifying than the anaconda itself is moving through the forest, frightening every living creature. The scene shifts to a completely different location, a struggling circus show. The circus is barely surviving financially because almost nobody buys tickets to watch the performances anymore. A young man named Billy Yang arrives at the circus and approaches the owner. He opens a suitcase that is completely filled with cash money and offers to buy the entire circus team and all the performers. Billy explains his plan. He wants to take everyone to Thailand and start a brand new circus business there. The circus workers are absolutely shocked to see Billy carrying so much money. Just a few years ago, Billy Yang was extremely poor and worked alongside them as a regular performer in the same circus. Nobody knows how he suddenly became so rich in such a short period of time. The next morning, Billy prepares to transport the entire circus crew to Thailand by boat. Since Billy now legally owns the circus, everyone agrees to travel with him. They all board the large boat while the captain begins steering them toward their destination in Thailand. During the journey, Billy secretly hides inside the bathroom and makes a quiet phone call. He whispers to someone on the phone that the delivery is ready and that he will arrive soon with all the people on the boat. His strange words make it very clear that Billy is planning something dangerous and possibly illegal. After traveling for some distance down the river, the group notices that their path is completely blocked ahead. Large wooden barriers and heavy metal containers have been deliberately placed across the entire width of the river. The boat captain explains that they can take a different route instead, but that alternative path would take much longer to reach Thailand. Billy becomes extremely angry when he hears this suggestion. He threatens the captain and says they absolutely must reach Thailand on time because he has already accepted advance payment from people expecting a circus show there. He warns that if they arrive late and fail to perform, they will lose all their money and the business deal will be ruined. The captain then suggests a risky solution to their problem. He says they can use explosives to blow up the barriers and clear the blocked path. Billy quickly agrees to this dangerous plan without hesitation. However, none of them realize the terrible mistake they are about to make. They place powerful explosives near the containers and detonate them using a remote control device. The massive explosion successfully destroys the barriers and clears the river. But at the same exact moment, countless snakes that were hidden inside the metal containers fall directly onto their boat. The crew members panic immediately and start running around in terror. Within moments, the entire boat becomes completely covered with hundreds of poisonous snakes. The deadly reptiles start attacking and biting everyone on board. A young woman named Lenny quickly thinks of a clever way to protect herself. She turns on a high-pressure water hose, causing the snakes around her to be blasted off the boat and into the river. Meanwhile, Billy Yang hides inside the boat's bathroom, trembling with fear. But suddenly, the bathroom ceiling collapses, and dozens of snakes fall directly on top of him. Absolutely terrified, Billy jumps into the river and swims desperately toward the shore to escape the danger. However, even after reaching the land, danger continues to follow Billy. A deadly king cobra suddenly appears directly in front of him and prepares to strike with its venomous fangs. Just before the snake can bite him, a mysterious man steps forward and crushes the cobra under his boot, saving Billy's life. That mysterious stranger is Jeff, the snake hunter from earlier in the story. Since Jeff saved his life, Billy feels grateful and allows him to come aboard the boat with the circus crew. Jeff introduces himself to everyone as a wild explorer who became stranded in the jungle after suffering an accident. At that moment, a circus worker named Gia suddenly experiences terrible pain inside his ear. The pain becomes so severe that he collapses to the ground, screaming in agony. Jeff carefully examines Gia and quickly figures out what is causing the problem. He makes a small cut on his own finger to draw blood and places it near Gia's ear. Moments later, a thin, poisonous snake crawls out from deep inside Gia's ear canal and immediately bites Jeff's bleeding finger. Surprisingly, Jeff remains completely unharmed even after being bitten by the venomous snake. He calmly grabs the snake with his bare hand and throws it into the river. Lenny watches this entire scene in complete shock and confusion. She cannot understand how Jeff survived the deadly venom without showing any reaction or symptoms. Lenny also has extensive knowledge about snakes and their venom. She explains to the others that a person can only become resistant to snake venom after deliberately exposing their body to large amounts of it over many years. This means Jeff must have been bitten by poisonous snakes hundreds or even thousands of times throughout his life. The circus crew begins to trust Jeff and accept him as part of their group. However, Lenny remains suspicious and does not trust him at all. Her instincts tell her that something about Jeff is very wrong and dangerous. After traveling together for some time, the boat suddenly stops moving because it has run out of fuel. Everyone gets off the boat and begins walking through the jungle to search for help or another way to reach Thailand. While they are walking, they find Billy Yang lying unconscious on the ground. He had been separated from the group after the snake attack earlier. They try to wake Billy up, but he doesn't respond at all. Jeff examines Billy carefully and discovers that he has been bitten by a highly venomous snake. Billy is dying, and he doesn't have much time left to live. In his dying moments, Billy regains consciousness briefly. The young boy from the circus asks Billy an important question. Why did he suddenly become so rich when he was poor before? Billy begins laughing weakly and finally reveals his terrible secret. He admits that he never actually planned to take them to perform in a circus show in Thailand. Billy explains that he became extremely wealthy by secretly working in the illegal business of human trafficking, buying and selling human organs and body parts on the black market. This horrifying criminal activity is how he earned so much money in just a few years. Billy says he originally planned to sell all the circus workers to organ traffickers for profit, but now, after learning about the giant Crimson Anaconda in this jungle, he believes capturing that creature would be worth even more money. After revealing this shocking truth, Billy dies from the snake venom. The circus crew is devastated and horrified to learn that Billy had planned to sell them all along. They realize they have been tricked and are now trapped in a deadly jungle far from home. Now that Billy is dead, Jeff reveals his own evil plan. He tells the group that he also wants to capture the legendary Crimson Anaconda and sell it for an enormous amount of money. He forces everyone to help him hunt for the giant snake. Jeff and the circus crew walk deeper into the dangerous jungle. Along the way, they encounter more giant anacondas. These snakes are huge, but they are not as large as the legendary Crimson Anaconda that Jeff is searching for. The group realizes they are now trapped in the territory of these deadly creatures. Jeff decides to use the circus members as live bait to attract the Crimson Anaconda. He ties up 2 members of the circus crew with ropes and plans to leave them for the snake to attack. The young boy questions Billy and asks why he is doing something so cruel and heartless. He reminds Jeff that if everyone dies, there will be nobody left to help him. Jeff keeps 2 of the young women tied up separately nearby. He begins behaving aggressively and threateningly toward one of them. The girl quickly realizes she must act smart and carefully to survive this dangerous situation. Pretending to support Jeff and trust him, she slowly moves closer to him and starts talking to distract his attention. Jeff completely fails to notice her secret plan. As she gets very close to him, she sees her opportunity and secretly grabs the gun from Jeff's pocket. She quickly points the weapon at him and tries to fire it. However, nothing happens when she pulls the trigger because she doesn't know how to unlock the safety mechanism on the gun. Furious and angry, Jeff immediately snatches the gun back from her hands. He raises the weapon and prepares to shoot her in the head, but before he can pull the trigger, Lenny manages to free herself from her ropes. Lenny suddenly attacks Jeff from behind and stabs him hard in the stomach with a sharp piece of broken glass. Jeff violently pushes Lenny away with great force. At that same moment, the other young woman also attacks Jeff to help. Lenny struggles desperately to take the gun away from Jeff's hands. During their violent fight, a loud gunshot suddenly echoes through the jungle. However, nobody can tell who has been hit by the bullet in the confusion. Meanwhile, the 2 men who were tied up as bait remain trapped and completely terrified. Unable to escape from the ropes, they wait helplessly for the inevitable attack. After some time passes, a giant anaconda slowly emerges from the trees and moves steadily toward them, preparing to devour them alive. Billy Yang, before he died, had been watching from a distance with excitement, waiting for the giant anaconda to attack the trapped men so he could pull a rope and drop a net to capture the creature. However, what none of them know is that another giant anaconda is silently approaching from above in the tree branches. Before anyone notices the danger, the second snake suddenly attacks and grabs one of them, dragging the person away deep into the jungle. As the victim is pulled away, the rope slips from their hands, and the heavy net accidentally falls over the 2 trapped men, completely covering them. Ironically, this accident actually saves their lives by protecting them from the first anaconda. Meanwhile, Jeff once again tries to attack and hurt the young woman. But before he can harm her, Lenny rushes from behind him and strikes Jeff hard on the head with a heavy wooden stick. The powerful blow knocks Jeff completely unconscious, and he collapses to the ground. The moment Jeff falls down, the 2 rescued men quickly work together to free all the others from the net and ropes. Unfortunately, Jeff regains consciousness much sooner than expected. He starts getting up and moving toward them again with his weapon. But suddenly, yet another giant anaconda appears from nowhere and attacks Jeff, grabbing him and dragging him away into the darkness of the jungle. The survivors survivors immediately prepare to run and escape from this area as fast as possible. However, one of their companions is badly injured from the earlier fight and unable to walk. During the violent struggle with Jeff, she had been accidentally hit by a stray bullet. Despite everyone's efforts to help her, the injured girl dies right in front of them after losing too much blood. Heartbroken and absolutely terrified, the 3 remaining survivors board Jeff's boat that he had hidden nearby and attempt to escape through the river. But suddenly, something sharp strikes Gia from behind. When he checks his shoulder, he realizes he has been hit with a tranquilizer dart. Within just a few seconds, the powerful sedative takes effect, and Gia loses consciousness completely, collapsing onto the boat. The person responsible for shooting the dart is revealed to be Jeff. Against all impossible odds, Jeff actually survived the anaconda attack. He had even managed to kill that snake by cutting off its head with his knife. Jeff captures all the remaining survivors and ties them up tightly as bait for the giant anacondas once again. He secures sharp metal wires around their bodies and pours animal blood on the ground nearby to attract the snakes with the smell. After preparing this deadly trap, Jeff takes hold of the rope connected to a large net and waits patiently at a safe distance. Soon, several giant anacondas begin moving steadily toward the captives after smelling the fresh blood. The trapped survivors are absolutely horrified as they watch multiple deadly snakes approaching them from different directions. The giant reptiles slowly crawl closer and closer, preparing to attack and feed. But suddenly the entire jungle erupts with panic once again. Birds and animals begin screaming loudly and fleeing in every possible direction. Even the giant anacondas nearby suddenly start retreating quickly, as if they are terrified of something even more dangerous and powerful than themselves. However, one of the anacondas refuses to back away and continues moving toward the trapped survivors. At that dramatic moment, the legendary Crimson Anaconda finally appears for the first time. The enormous creature attacks the smaller anaconda and kills it instantly with a single devastating strike of its powerful body. For the first time, everyone gets a completely clear look at the legendary Crimson Anaconda. The giant monster is unbelievably massive, absolutely terrifying, and far more dangerous than any snake anyone has ever seen in their entire lives. Its red-tinted scales shimmer in the light, and its body is as thick as a tree trunk. The 3 survivors are completely terrified and frozen with fear. But Jeff, who is standing safely at a distance, feels intensely excited and thrilled after finally seeing the Crimson Anaconda with his own eyes. This is the creature he has been hunting for so long. The giant Crimson Anaconda opens its massive mouth wide and moves toward the trapped people to swallow them alive. At that critical moment, Jeff releases a hidden net that he had set up earlier. The heavy net drops down and successfully traps the legendary creature. The Crimson Anaconda struggles violently to break free from the net. It thrashes and fights with all its incredible strength, trying desperately to escape. When the ropes prove too strong, the intelligent creature tears through part of the net with its razor-sharp fangs. However, a significant portion of the net remains tangled tightly around its enormous body. Jeff grabs the rope with both hands and tries his absolute hardest to hold the creature back and prevent its escape. But Jeff is absolutely no match for the Crimson Anaconda's overwhelming strength and power. The snake pulls so hard that Jeff loses his footing and becomes trapped between 2 large trees with the rope wrapped around his body. Now Jeff has no way to escape from his position. Taking full advantage of this situation, the Crimson Anaconda quickly moves directly toward Jeff with deadly intent. It wraps its gigantic body around him and begins squeezing with crushing force. The other 3 survivors witness this absolutely horrifying scene while still tied up. They desperately try to free themselves from their bonds, knowing they could be the snake's next victims. They attempt every possible method to escape, but nothing seems to work at all. Then the brave young boy decides he must do whatever it takes to save himself and the others. He starts biting the thick rope around his wrists with his teeth. After struggling painfully for a long time, he finally manages to tear part of the rope apart with his teeth. Only a small section of rope remains intact. Using every ounce of strength in his body, the boy bites harder and harder into the rope until his gums start bleeding and blood drips from his mouth. The pain is unbearable, but he doesn't stop because their lives depend on it. Meanwhile, the Crimson Anaconda tightens its grip around Jeff's body even more, slowly crushing his bones with incredible pressure. Moments later, the giant creature opens its mouth impossibly wide and swallows Jeff completely alive, just as it had done to his companions earlier. At that exact same moment, the young boy finally breaks through the last piece of rope and frees his hands. He quickly unties the others, and all 3 of them immediately run as fast as they can toward the river to escape. But after killing Jeff, the massive Crimson Anaconda is still hungry and starts chasing them through the jungle. They quickly hide behind a large tree, hoping the creature will pass by without noticing them. The young boy hides inside a wooden container for extra safety. However, the intelligent Crimson Anaconda notices the boy's hiding spot and begins crawling slowly toward the wooden box. The terrified child desperately tries to escape, but he discovers that the door on the opposite side is locked shut. He screams as loudly as he can for help, his voice filled with pure terror. As the anaconda gets closer and closer to the box, just seconds before the creature can attack him, Gia smashes open the container door from the outside and pulls the child to safety. Now all three of them run for their lives once again through the dangerous jungle. But the entire forest is the Crimson Anaconda's territory and hunting ground. Escaping from it while inside its own domain seems completely impossible. They hide desperately behind another large tree, hoping and praying that the creature will pass by without seeing them. But just moments later, the Crimson Anaconda spots them clearly from a distance. The massive creature rushes toward them at terrifying speed, moving faster than seems possible for something so enormous. The three survivors freeze completely in fear, unable to move their legs. They truly believe this is the end, and that they will never survive this encounter. As the Crimson Anaconda opens its enormous mouth to attack and devour them, something unexpected happens. A sharp, thin iron wire that had been set up earlier suddenly slices through the creature's head with incredible force. The deadly trap had actually been carefully placed by Jeff before his death as a backup plan. The wire cuts deep into the anaconda's flesh, causing a fatal wound. The legendary Crimson Anaconda lets out a final terrifying roar before it collapses to the ground. After years of being the most feared predator in the jungle, the creature is finally killed. The three survivors stand there in complete shock and disbelief, unable to process that they are somehow still alive. They stare at the giant creature's massive body, lying motionless on the ground for a very long time, making sure it is truly dead. Finally, they gather their remaining strength and courage. Exhausted, traumatized, but alive, they slowly make their way out of the cursed jungle. They walk for hours until they finally reach safety and escape from the nightmare. And with that terrifying and deadly adventure, the story comes to an end. The legendary Crimson Anaconda, which had terrorized the jungle for so many years and killed countless victims, has finally been defeated, though at an enormous cost of human lives.